Well, there has been a long, long international break, and it's still going on. It seems endless, for that matter. But with those endless things also come endless decisions to make, especially for those of you hitting the wildcard like me. In today's episode, we're going to look at those final changes that we're going to be making to the wildcard teams, along with some of the player availability around the international breaks and players returning from injury with this 2 week long break. Let's come straight into it. Well, Annie, as you can see, 783,000 changes to my team since we looked at it last week. I think the main ones have been Bruno goes out. Have sort of gone with Brewster in attack. I think I'm just going to start with, for those on the wildcard teams, just sort of looking at value, right? How to maximize the value, and I think Brewster adds that. He's Sheffield United's record signing, so he is bound to get some starts. Uh, the other option for those of you who aren't going to Brewster is Yves Bissouma, if you want to save money in midfield, right? But I thought there's just more value in midfield, so I went midfield heavy and lower on the forward line, but you can sort of switch it up into either as well, right? Annie, what do you think of my team? You currently sit around 15,000 in world rank, so you're the brain that everyone wants to pick. So, what are your thoughts on this, man?
I'm really not giving too much importance to my rank. As of now, it's only very early days. And this has been kind of an anomaly of a season already. And we said it's going to happen because of the international break and because of COVID, obviously, not just the international break, right? Coming to your team, Kern, one more problem I do see coming, which we discussed in our the episode for Game Week 4, was the fact that Mitchell could not be on his way out. Van Aanholt said that he is fit. Now, if Roy Hodgson wants to play him immediately, or will be slowly get him back in, it's up to the manager. But Mitchell will definitely be not someone who will keep his place. He's not been that solid for me. So that's someone you'll have to consider eventually, because you have the likes of Walker Peters and Lamptey. You are okay. I think both of them are sure shot starters at 4.5. I think at 4.7 now, if Lamptey, if I'm not correct, not wrong. Where I see you there, where's the trouble for you there is Chilwell right now. Right now I can see he's not been marked as injured, but there is a small doubt because he was sent back from the England camp with a rescan on his previous injury, which kept him out for his Chelsea debut for so long, right? So that's again one to watch out for. Again, you might be able to see off this game week with, like I said, Lamptey and Walker Peters, although Walker Peters would not be ideal, right, playing against Chelsea. But for a lot of managers who've gotten Chilwell as a big defender picked in their side, you might have to hold on to your changes till Friday last minute, which is, I know you don't like it, but it's been crazy already. Don't take another minus, right?
Kurt, I am going to be looking at. I am going to be waiting for Mr. Frank Lampard's presser very, very closely, because obviously Chilwell, as you mentioned, and there's also Pulisic. If he's going to give us any hints whether he's going to start or not. He's obviously had a break over the international break because the US didn't have any games to play. So thankfully, he's been with the club. No such worries there. But Frank Lampard's press conference, what I'm going to be having a key eye on.
Yeah, Kern, so you mentioned Pulisic rightly. And before we actually go into your midfield, let's take a step back. Let's just go look at the fact that you did change your keeper from McCarthy, Southampton, to Martinez, like we discussed last week, which was the wise pick. His price is going up though, right? And, anyone who's not got him in already, you might want to think about maybe halting that move, because I don't know, Kern, what do you think? Is it still worth getting him? Is he at 4.8 now? He's still at 4.7.
No, I got him in at 4.6. So for me, that 0.1 difference. And the reason why I did that was, if I'm looking at clean sheet points, I can bring in Walker Peters, who's fantastic value in a Southampton defense, who goes forward, right? So between McCarthy and him, that sort of evens out. If I'm covered on the Southampton clean sheet options as such. And Martinez, I think, will give me a lot more save points over the course, because he just is that sort of keeper. I said it right when the transfer was happening. Martinez brings save points. I think that sort of calculation was put in there, where I have Southampton's cover with Walker Peters and then Martinez with save points, whereas you don't have that option with any stand-out Aston Villa defender who's sort of giving you those bonus points or anything in defense, right? Which Walker Peters can potentially give you. So I think that sort of pairing up helps cover both, and I think it was a no-brainer for me.
Fair enough. We obviously see that big yellow mark there on Kevin De Bruyne, and we will address that. It's just, Kern, I'll take the focus again away onto Son and Salah. Now, Salah is someone we all discussed in the very first game week, set and forget for the season, right? Along with the likes of KDB in game week 2. Now, City assets have not delivered to their potential. Sterling, who I have in my team, also has a yellow mark next to him because he had a slight niggle, which is why he never went on international duty to begin with. So I think maybe I am in the advantage in the plus there because I do see Sterling starting, but we'll wait for the press conference on Friday. Kurt, finally you made your move to Son though. But he's still only owned by 29%. Don't you think he should have more ownership?
It's crazy, man. So I think between Son and Harry Kane, which is like the big debate, right? I think a lot of people are going for Harry Kane. I'm not sure on his ownership stats right now. But at that 1.5 price difference, right? I mean, it might be 0.12 here, there, depending on the price movements changes. But looking at the price difference, I think Son is a no-brainer, man. I honestly see him going up to that 40% mark where James Rodriguez finds himself right now. I think the only thing people are sort of wary about with Son might be the price versus James Rodriguez, because you look at Salah and De Bruyne, and those are must-haves in your team. Then you add on a Son to it, and it becomes how do I bring that money in? So I think that's where his ownership isn't there, but I mean works for us, right?
I'm looking at the likes of Bruno Fernandes, right? At 10.5, United looking uncertain. Although he's on penalties, and even if they don't perform well, Bruno is getting those points, right? So it's not like he's not getting those points, but I still feel that 1.5 you save there, million in the bank, goes to improving your defense, like you have gone from the likes of a 4.5 defender to even a Chilwell, right? And if you look at it the other way around, and you say, okay, you know what, I'm going to go one step better. How about I still don't take Son and I only take a Chelsea asset? Or what if I double up on Mane now? Because Mane has been declared fit. He is now out of isolation. Most likely will start this weekend. Merseyside derby. Mane, Salah double up. Do you still think that's a viable option if the likes of De Bruyne are still injured?
I think if you're looking at a long-term change and if you're looking to get that money in, I'd still think if you're moving from a De Bruyne, you can move to a cheaper option midfield, like you mentioned, a Chelsea asset, say maybe Pulisic, but then invest that money in your forward line and then go for Harry Kane. I think right now it would be silly not to have either one of Son or Harry Kane. And actually a double up on those two assets is not that bad either. Like, if I had some money in my forward line right now, I would be exploring that option. If De Bruyne is said to be not fit, then maybe I would do that. Right? If it was a free hit, then maybe there. But because it's wild card, I have to think long term, it sort of makes it slightly tricky. I would not double up on Mane and Salah. I think it's wiser to sort of spread that money out, because generally we've seen one of the two give returns. Very rarely you see both of them give returns in the same game, right? So I'd have one of them and then sort of bank my money on someone else, So I think that's the move to go. And Harry Kane, especially, let's not forget Gareth Bale is said to be coming back. With his supply, if his supply starts coming in from Son and Bale, I think, sky is the limit, as they say, for Harry this year, I guess.
We will be talking about, Gareth Bale maybe later in this episode or on Friday in our player to watch out for at 9.5, 0.5 more than Son. Could be very, very, very interesting going ahead, after game week 6, I think. But to, zero in back on City Con. City haven't been doing that well. Obviously being dropped 5-2 by Leicester, something they didn't see coming. But they do have a new defender now. They have Ruben Dias on the side who's giving them some more balance, hopefully. You do have Aguero now, who is back in training. Aguero is someone we didn't put on our player to watch because we didn't know status, but it seems like he's doing well in training. And if you're looking at the likes of Kane at 10.5, Aguero is the same. I wouldn't go out to say that this is the game week to look at Aguero into your side. But what I would say is that, I would not take out any of my City assets. I'm looking at Sterling injured right now on my team with 70% chance of playing. And I don't think I'll be taking him out. Unless, of course, if I have more injuries on my side. They are playing Arsenal. Arsenal do look good if I'm looking at just this fixture only. But again, I do see City scoring against Arsenal. I don't see it being a case where Arsenal win 2-0 or Arsenal win 3-0 like they did in the FA Cup, right? It's not a cup tournament. What would you say to that, Kurt? Do you think there is a case that you see managers going without City assets into game week 5 and 6? I don't think that should happen. Like you already mentioned. And if you say keep hope in them, would you also say then it would also be wise to still captain them?
Captaincy, no. I think there are better captaincy options, which we'll discuss on our episode later this week, right? See, City will bounce back. I mean, it's just scary to think of going into a game week without City assets because on their day, yes, they can concede, but they can easily score. As you said, yes, they might have Ruben Dias in the back. But more importantly for them, Aguero is closing in on a return. Jesus is closing in on a return. And once those two come in, it sort of gives more mobility to Sterling on the left wing where he likes to be, where he's most lethal. That'll start coming in. KDB can sort of, start doing his thing. I think Aguero coming in is going to help KDB so much. I'm looking forward to Aguero coming in for KDB's numbers, right? So I'm really looking forward to that happening. And once that does, I do think City will start scoring goals again. Whether they leak, whether they don't perform, might be another thing. But with the attacking power they have, it's just inevitable that they'll score. I mean, it's like if Liverpool have one game week off, you can't take out Salah Mane. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
That you still have to have at least one of them. And it's the same thing with City assets. It's crazy, at least still at this point, to go into a week without them.
Fair enough. I don't think those knee-jerk reactions are something you're going to love after a few game weeks. Will definitely repent. You spoke about a double up about Spurs earlier, right? Let's address a double up in your team right now, which we haven't covered, which are the Wolves assets. Now we discussed the Wolves assets in the last wildcard video with you. A lot of people are considering Jimenez. So before we move on to the strikers, I still think Saiz is a very good keeper, defender in your side at 5.1. Looks to be, a set player in that side, getting you that points. Wolves look to be getting a little better. No pressure off Europa this year. So would you suggest when I'm making my wild card, would you still say, Saiz is someone I think is good. So let's move on from Saiz. Instead of Podence, do you think at that 5.5 bracket or 5.6 bracket, there are still better players to look at?
No chance. I'm saying this because I looked extensively at that bracket, and Podence is standard value. He's going to now be Jota of this team, is how I see it, right? And Jota last year when he got injured, unfortunately, for a large part of it. But apart from that, he was phenomenal. He was getting great returns for assets, and Adama Traore we've still seen does not start every game.
Yeah.
So so Podence can easily fill that Jota hole in the Wolves team and get those goals that Jimenez doesn't, or get those assists to Jimenez. I think in that margin, it's a great value. Let me put it this way: I had an option of either having Podence or going down from Podence to Bissouma and sort of upgrading Brewster to Mope, like shuffling things around. I've still gone for Podence over Mope, even though Mope I'll come on to maybe later differentials or whatever at some point this week is a great option. I think Podence, Wolves have great fixtures. If you don't have the money for Jimenez, you need attacking returns from Wolves. Who's your second guy? Who's your second guy in that Wolves team to give you attacking returns? And I think that's Podence. And at that value, I don't think anyone comes close.
All right, fair enough. The other option you did mention obviously was, like you said, Bissouma is a kind, but that's if you want to really save the money and just want a starter in place, right? And that with COVID is something you consider. But one more thing that we keep repeating through all our FPL episodes: don't plan too much for COVID. You might end up with a side which is too budgety or differentially, and you might miss out on heavy hitters and you won't realize it. It sometimes gets into your head, right? Kern, let's move on to the forward line. And this is something we saw towards the end of last season, where our forwards just weren't delivering, which is why we went with two forwards, right? And which is why Brewster, you rightly mentioned, is someone who is in your team, on your bench, who you know is going to start, maybe not get those goals to begin with, but gives you the money to balance out your squad. What do you think about Danny Ings firstly? We're going to talk about Calvert-Lewin also, but what do you think about Danny Ings with this fixture and looking at, like the Walcott we mentioned last week, it's our player to watch out for. Do you think that Ings' value is more important now, looking at more playmakers on that side?
Yeah, I think, at one point I had 3 Southampton players in my team, and I realized that Southampton really are a squad that provides good value. And Ings, I got in, he's already performed this year. I got him in game week 1 where he didn't perform. I got him out for Martial for 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, he went absolutely crazy. So Ings can give those returns. I think I said this last week as well. From the start of last season,
yeah, sorry, we did that Ings and Jimenez comparison. If you guys have seen our last episode, that's the one Cohen's talking about.
Yeah, so no one has scored more goals than Ings from the start of last season. I think he's on par with Vardy during that period. So it's not a flash in the pan. He's been doing it consistently, and Southampton have only looked better in 2020. Right, so I think Ings is one to back for, and he's the one who gets them those goals. We've talked also about underlying statistics for Che Adams, but his conversion rate is just not there, right? So Ings is the one who's getting them those goals, and I see value in him. I am a little scared because he's not exactly cheap. You have Jimenez, who's an alternate option, but I think the Podence cover in Wolves gives me slight comfort with having Ings up top.
Fair enough, Kern. You did mention the double up earlier against Son and Kane. I just want to know, you can tell all the other managers watching this, why have you not gone for, Kane Calvert-Lewin and Ings Calvert-Lewin instead?
Money. That's primarily it. I've just sort of loaded up on my midfield, and it's given me no wiggle room whatsoever. The only thing I could possibly do in this is go from Pulisic to James Rodriguez, which is sort of a safe bet, because James is so highly owned. Even if he doesn't perform, it won't make a difference. It'll be everyone is going to tank together with me on that purchase, right? So James Rodriguez might be a safer move. Might happen still, looking at what Frank Lampard says in his thing. But idea generally is to sort of, get my midfield performing week in, week out. If I can bring in Kane in, I honestly don't see how, because it's like a 2.5-ish sort of territory that I need more in the bank. There's a lot of moving around. I'll have to move Podence down to Bissouma. I'll have to move Pulisic down to James Rodriguez. That means no Chelsea attacking asset, no Wolves attacking asset, and 2 Spurs attacking assets and 2 Everton attacking assets. So I think it's too focused in on specific teams, and I want to sort of have my eggs in multiple baskets.
Yeah, so I was about to say, then my next question was going to be, why not a Calvert and James Rodriguez double up for as long as they deliver, right? Like, Son and Kane are. But fair enough, you have to balance out your team. So where I think you differentiate from my teams, like we spoke about last week, is you got rid of your expensive defender, but you have still Chilwell, who's at a 5.6, and a Says at 5.1. You have 2 5+ defenders, while I have everybody 4.5 and below, and just Says at 5.1, right? So that's where you've got the extra money, which you utilize in your defense. And obviously, you've gone for Pulisic at 8.3, whereas I have the likes of Harvey Barnes at 7.1. That's where I've stayed up, and that's how I structured my team actually from the game week 1, where I kept Kane in, looking at the fixture still game week 8. That's what we told you. So fair enough, Kern, you gave us your reasoning for that. And, before we kind of close on this episode, give us some of the possible changes you see you're still going to be forced to make, and a strategy in case you have to make that worst case move, and other managers who end up finding themselves in your position where you don't say KDB will probably miss the game. You see one more injury cropping up somewhere else where you have to make a move. What would that move be if KDB doesn't?
James Rodriguez coming in is one of the easier ones, just because the ownership cover, right? Because he's that highly owned, it also means that if he does have a good game week and I don't have him, I'm missing out on practically everyone. So not having James in there is as scary as, sometimes not having Salah in your team. It's always there with those higher owned players. But I might also just look at, if I have to make sort of a price-like switch, just moving De Bruyne to Bruno for that week, if he's confirmed that he's not playing. Yes, United aren't performing, but if they get goals, Bruno is somehow always involved, especially with Martial now suspended for this game, Cavani not eligible yet, so I think if they are going to get goals this game, it has to sort of be through Bruno. So I think Bruno might be the one. So I think between Bruno and James is what I'm going to look at. I'm not going to try and change around between attackers and midfielders and all, because I do know I need to bring De Bruyne back immediately next week. So I'm going to keep it in that line so I can sort of just make like-for-like switches again.
All right, Kern, fair enough. I think we've covered, your wildcard draft last episode and this one extensively. You've given us all possible options in case we need to make even more changes with injuries piling up in the international break. This episode is being shot on Tuesday night IST. That means we do have one more whole game week to go in the international break. So there are possibilities you could see more COVID, unfortunately, more COVID positive results or more injury concerns, right? So hopefully we don't have none of those, and not just for the sake of FPL, but for the sake of the Premier League itself and the players. But we will be coming with our FPL Friday episode, which covers captain picks, differentials, and our final players to have and picks for game week 5. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to hit like on this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on your notifications. We will definitely be a little more active on Twitter and on Instagram. So send us your screenshots. We have a few people reached out to us in the comments and we help them out with their wildcard teams. So we will try our best to be even more active. So do send us your wildcard teams, and we'll try our best to help you guys out. And we'll see you on Friday for our FPL Game Week 5 final picks.